I personally became aware of Takashi Murakami's artwork because Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, commissioned Murakami to design the cover artwork for the iconic 2007 album, Graduation. Admittedly, this is a rather reductive and slightly shameful entry point to the artist's work. It is not necessarily the most credible way to claim familiarity, given Murakami's icon status and legendary career. Yet, nonetheless, I'm always grateful when pop culture serves as a gateway to greatness. The special exhibit titled Takashi Murakami, Stepping on the Tail of a Rainbow, opened at the Cleveland Museum of Art in May 2025 to much buzz and enthusiasm. I personally learned of the show when the New York Times published a critic's review of it. The show immediately caught my attention for its close proximity to me. With an exhibit like this so nearby, I felt compelled to seize the opportunity to experience the work of such an acclaimed artist for myself. The day before my trip to Cleveland, I started doing some research into Murakami, but I stopped myself. I decided to go into the exhibit more blindly to allow myself to generate independent thought and my own uninfluenced analysis. As I moved through the show, Andy Warhol lingered in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake him. The more I saw, the more I couldn't unsee the connection. Last summer, I visited the Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh for the Cause Andy Warhol exhibition. I was thoroughly unimpressed. Now, generally, I am a positive critic. It's extremely rare that I render a hypercritical, negative opinion of any art, film, music, whatever. I tend to appreciate the good in everything, and if I don't have anything nice to say, I don't say it at all. But while I infinitely love and respect Warhol, I absolutely disliked the Cause work I saw as part of that exhibit. It felt uninsightful and gimmicky, lacking depth and true meaning. The Cause Warhol exhibit attempted to bring together, in curated conversation, two artists, generations apart, both known for reimagining commercial imagery and pop culture icons, and for blurring the boundaries between fine art, pop culture, and commerce. While the Cause work didn't land for me, Murakami totally screamed as something distinctly Warholian. A fusion of consumer culture, repetition, and surface-level charm with deeper critique. Murakami's Stepping on the Tail of the Rainbow show was a blast. I so thoroughly enjoyed taking in the displays and, even more so, photographing them, filming them, taking selfies with them. All throughout the gallery, attendees posed for aesthetically pleasing shots that would undoubtedly stand out on their Instagram grids and perform well for the algorithms. I couldn't and didn't want to resist the temptation to pose with the smiling, emoji-like faced flowers or the grungy pile of skulls. Like a kid in a candy shop, I relished and delighted in the visually appealing bursts of color and charm. Walking out of the exhibit, though, I quickly recognized that my mind formulated no notable original thoughts or significant analysis. Sure, I read some wall text toward the start of the exhibit which referenced Murakami's intent to commentate upon post-war Japan and American or Western influences upon its culture, but I failed to fully grasp that understanding of the work or to gain any further perspective. I actually left the exhibit feeling confused, knowing I needed to do further independent research to further understand what I'd just experienced. Back to those insistent thoughts of Andy Warhol, which I mentioned a moment ago. Sure, I'm a Pittsburgh girl, so to some extent, Warhol is always top of mind when I'm taking in art, especially modern contemporary art. Moreover, I personally regard Warhol as one of the most influential figures to shape much of modern art and contemporary Western societal aesthetics today. But, turns out, my comparisons of Murakami to Warhol were more on the money than I ever expected. A quick Google search containing both Murakami and Warhol's names results in dozens of articles, either referring to Murakami as Japan's Warhol or Japan's answer to Warhol, or rebuking that comparison altogether, taking offense to it, and aggressively distinguishing the two artists from each other. In the 1990s, Murakami coined a term, superflat, which put a name to his art style and the movement it catalyzed. According to Wikipedia, Superflat is a postmodern art movement founded by Murakami, which is influenced by manga and anime. However, there is no further explicit definition of the term, because Murakami does not want to limit the movement. Superflat, though, emphasizes the cultural flattening of high and low society, of fine art and pop culture, of gallery art and commercial product. The surface-level aesthetics of superflat artworks mirror the commercial saturation of modern life. The relation to Warhol, then, is obvious. At first glance, the connection practically announces itself. Both Murakami and Warhol blur the line between high art and mass culture, treating commercial imagery with the same reverence as classical painting. Warhol gave us Campbell's soup, Murakami gives us smiling flowers. They both play with repetition, flatness, and iconography that's instantly recognizable. Art that reads like branding, and branding that reads like art. Beyond aesthetics, both artists built systems, not just studios. Warhol had the factory, Murakami has what he calls kai kai ki ki. Neither of them subscribed to the idea of the solitary artist toiling away in a studio. Instead, they embraced production teams, assistants, and industrial techniques, intentionally mechanizing their process. The result? Work that is both personal and mass-produced, deeply stylized yet fundamentally scalable. It's art made for the gallery wall and the world en masse. They also share a deliberate embrace of capitalism, not as a flaw or side effect, but as part of their whole artistic concept. Warhol once said, "Making money is art." Murakami, in a similar spirit, collaborates with luxury brands like Louis Vuitton. He designs merchandise, and he doesn't shy away from the marketplace. In both cases, the commerce isn't beneath the art, it is the art, or an extension of the art. So yes, the comparison makes sense. Both artists confront the viewer with the same fundamental provocation: what counts as art? However, despite these blatant similarities, Murakami's work and the superflat philosophy is more dimensional. I love Andy, but even he would admit to his own superficiality. Warhol was driven largely by aesthetics and profit. He created stuff that visually pleased him and which made him money. Today, we search for and draw out the deeper meaning within his work, and surely there is cultural commentary going on there. He was saying something about American consumerism, but Warhol's catalog lacks further depth beyond what looked good and what sold successfully. Whereas Murakami engages with Japanese culture and tradition more than Warhol ever did with American history or psychology. Murakami is driven by a political agenda to reverse the tide of Japan's post-war culture inferiority complex and overturn American pop hegemony by capturing the Western market share and the popular imagination with more purely Japanese forms and content. Thus, there's greater tension between Murakami's aesthetics, bright, bold, colorful, cute, fun, and the meaning behind it all. And so, I deeply apologize, dear listener, for producing yet another think piece that utters Murakami's name in the same breath as Warhol's, forever associating the two, forever parsing them apart. While the surface-level comparisons are easy and, frankly, fair, Murakami isn't simply imitating Warhol or even carrying his torch forward. Murakami is reclaiming culture, reframing it, and re-exporting it back to the West with his own purpose, his own manifesto, his own mission. Murakami's work is not just visually seductive, it's strategically positioned, deeply theoretical, and unapologetically Japanese. I went into this show hoping to learn something profound about Murakami and his art, and while I walked out somewhat mystified, unsure of what exactly I'd absorbed, that confusion didn't mean that the work failed. Rather, it meant that it worked. It sent me spiraling down a rabbit hole of interviews, articles, and historical context. And in that way, the experience extended far beyond the gallery walls. Murakami doesn't hand over easy meaning, but he knows what he's doing. His world is vibrant, commercial, disorienting, self-aware, and at times hollow, but deliberately so. It's a mirror that reflects culture and self back at us. Whether I understood everything I saw or not, I'm still thinking about it. That's the whole point.